The Cathari Veil moved slowly through the dark space near the human border. Its engines hummed with a low sound as silver light from a nearby star touched its hull. Captain Tarek stood on the command deck, staring at the sensor display. For many years, this region had been silent. No human signal, no patrol, no beacon. The humans had been defeated in the Great Galactic War 100 years ago. Their homeworld, Earth, was gone. Nothing lived there now except dust. Or so everyone believed. The Cathari Veil was a scout ship sent to check the border. The mission was routine. Scan the empty sectors, report any movement and return. But that day, something strange happened. The sensors began to flicker. At first, it looked like a simple glitch. Then the reading stabilized and showed something massive moving toward them. The object had no identification code, no transponder signal, no known design. It moved faster than light, but not through any normal drive path. It cut across gravity lines, as if space itself was opening for it. Lieutenant Vora spoke from the control pit. He said the object was coming from the direction of the old Sol system. Captain Tarek felt cold. He ordered a probe launch. The small drone shot out and vanished within seconds. No explosion, no return data, just gone. Another probe followed and met the same fate. Tarek called engineering and asked if it was interference. They said no. The space around them was stable. Whatever was coming was real. The object kept closing in. Its speed was too high for any known ship. Tarek ordered full alert. The crew powered shields and armed plasma cannons. On the screen, the unknown shape started to form. It was large, almost the size of a dreadnought, but the sensors showed no heat signature. It was cold like a dead planet. The ship's hull reflected no light. It looked like a hole in the stars, like something that swallowed light. Instead of shining back, Tarek sent a wide band message asking for identification. No reply came. He tried again, using all known languages and frequencies. Silence. The crew started whispering. Some said it was a ghost ship. Others said it was human technology lost from the old war. The tension grew heavy. Tarek ordered every system to battle mode. If it was hostile, they would fight. The object slowed and stopped about 1,000 kilometers away. The ship's sensors trembled, as if the data could not stay steady. The dark shape floated silently. Then a signal burst through the comm system. It was a single word. The translation software took a few seconds and then displayed it on the main screen. The word was retribution. A chill ran through every soul on the bridge. Tarek ordered the ship to retreat. The engines roared to full power, but the Cathari Veil did not move. Gravity fields locked them in place. The unknown ship started to glow faintly from within its black hull. A deep hum filled the air, as if the space around them was being pulled apart. The crew screamed as lights dimmed and consoles sparked. The sensors showed energy readings beyond calculation. It was not a weapon they understood. It was something new, something made for one purpose only. Then everything stopped. The glow faded. The sound died. The bridge lights flickered once more, and then darkness took the ship. Captain Tarek opened his eyes and saw stars outside the viewport. But something was wrong. The stars were moving slowly, drifting, scattered. He realized the ship was no longer whole. The Cathari Veil was breaking apart piece by piece, turning into dust. His hands passed through the console like smoke. The metal was dissolving. The crew's voices faded one by one as their bodies turned to grey mist carried into the void. The last thing Tarek saw was the dark warship turning away. Its surface shifted like waves. For a second, a symbol appeared on its hull. It was the old flag of Earth, the blue and white design that once flew over human colonies. Then the ship vanished into the dark, leaving no trace hours later. A nearby listening station received a short distress signal from the Cathari Veil. It contained only static and one repeating phrase in human language. The translators worked for hours before decoding it. When they did, the message made the entire command center fall silent. It said, "They are coming." The listening station tried to send a warning to the Central Fleet, but before the message could leave the relay, all its systems went dark. Every light, every screen, every heartbeat on the base stopped at once. In the empty void near the old human border, the stars blinked once, and a black shape moved again through the shadows. The silent hunter of lost humanity had returned. The report from the Cathari Vale never reached the High Council. The entire communication relay in that sector went dark within seconds of the last transmission. At first, the Council believed it was a power failure. Then 3 more stations stopped responding. One after another, they vanished from the grid. The Council began to panic. No enemy had been able to cross that border for centuries. Now entire regions were falling silent in the grand chamber of the Council. Holograms of alien leaders flickered around a long table. They spoke in worried tones. Some claimed humans had returned. Others laughed at the idea. The last human fleet was destroyed 100 years ago. Earth itself was turned into ash by orbital fire. Nothing could have survived that. Yet the evidence was clear. Ships were vanishing, stations were gone, and the few fragments of data that did come through showed a single word burned into every system. Retribution. To confirm what was happening, the Council sent a new scout team. The small vessel Nerath Dawn was commanded by Captain Lura, one of the youngest and bravest officers in the fleet. She was calm, clever, and loyal to her people. Her orders were simple. Enter the silent zone, investigate and report. Nothing more. The Nerath Dawn entered the sector after a long jump. The space there felt heavy. The stars looked dim, as if light itself was weaker. The ship's sensors detected floating metal fragments scattered like dust. Lura ordered a scan. The fragments were once parts of warships. Some were of Cathari design. Others were unknown. But none showed signs of an explosion. It was as if they had melted away in perfect silence. Lura moved the ship forward carefully. The deeper they went, the colder it became. The navigation systems began to lose calibration. Time and space readings started to shift. It felt like they were being watched by the void itself. The crew grew restless. One engineer said he heard faint whispers coming from the hull. Lura told him it was stress and ordered everyone to focus. After 2 hours of scanning, the ship picked up a faint signal. It was weak but constant, repeating on an old human frequency. No one had used that channel for more than a century. Lura ordered it amplified. The message became clear, but the words were in an old Earth language. The computer took time to translate. When the meaning appeared on the screen, no one spoke for a long moment. The message said, "Humanity endures." Lura played it again. The same phrase repeated in a calm human voice. It was not a distress call. It was a statement, a declaration. Someone was sending it intentionally. Someone who wanted it to be heard. Lura sent the data back to the Council. The transmission succeeded, but minutes later, the ship's long-range scanner showed movement. Something massive was approaching from the far edge of the system. The object's size was far larger than any known ship. It was not following normal flight paths. It seemed to drift, yet move with purpose. Like it was searching, Lura ordered the engines to power down. She turned off all external lights and let the ship drift among the debris. The unknown object came closer. At first, it was only a shadow in the distance. Then details began to appear. The shape was sharp and smooth, like a blade carved from black glass. There were no windows, no markings, no lights. But its presence filled the entire space around it with pressure. The crew felt it in their bones, as if gravity itself bowed before it. The object stopped near one of the wrecks. A white flash erupted from its surface. The wreck turned to dust instantly. Then the object vanished, slipping away faster than sensors could track. The crew sat in silence. Lura realized it was the same warship that destroyed the Cathari Vale. A human ship, or something built from human design. She recorded everything and sent another message to the Council. This time she added her own words. The humans are not gone. They have returned, and they are not what they once were. When the message reached the Council, the debate turned into fear. Armies were mobilized, borders reinforced, and fleets moved into position. But none of it mattered. Within days, 5 more fleets disappeared near the same border. No distress signals, no debris, only silence. The High Council called for emergency rule. Rumors spread among the people that the ghosts of humans had risen from the ashes of Earth to claim vengeance on all who once destroyed them. Stories of black ships hunting in the dark filled every broadcast. Captain Lura stayed near the silent zone, hiding and listening. Each day new signals appeared. Short human transmissions. Some were words, others were sounds. One night, her sensors picked up a simple heartbeat signal coming from deep space. Repeating endlessly, it was slow, steady, and powerful. Each pulse made the ship's lights flicker. Lura realized it was not a random code. It was a countdown. Something was coming again from the edge of the galaxy, and this time she knew there would be no escape. The galaxy was no longer calm. Panic spread through every system near the old human border. Fleets vanished without a trace. Colonies went silent, and space stations reported shadows moving across there. Scanners before losing all contact. The name of humanity was whispered again in fear. The High Council sent desperate messages across the stars, calling all fleets to defend the frontier. They wanted proof of what was happening, but none returned. Only silence and static Captain Lura was still in the dark zone with her ship Nerath Dawn. She had not left her hiding place since the last encounter. Her crew wanted to flee, but Lura refused. She said they must know the truth. Something inside her told her this was not just war. It was something greater, something ancient. Each day she heard more faint signals on human frequencies. Some sounded like voices. Some sounded like breathing. Then one morning, a clear broadcast came through. The voice was human. It spoke in calm and perfect tone. For every world you burn, justice has come. Then silence. The signal repeated again and again across every communication channel in the region. It was not coming from one point, but from many. Dozens of sources, all echoing the same message. The translation systems confirmed it was pure human language. Lura listened carefully and noticed that each repeat carried a slight delay. It meant the message was spreading through the network like a living thing. It was not a simple transmission. It was something alive in the system. Soon after, the signal changed. A new voice came through, deeper, slower, filled with something almost mechanical. "We are the UNS Vengeance." The word sent shock through every listening post. The name matched an ancient record from the last human fleet. The UNS Vengeance had been one of the final dreadnoughts built before the fall of Earth. According to history, it was destroyed during the Siege of Sol. Yet now its name echoed across the galaxy. The High Council demanded answers. How could a ship lost 100 years ago speak again? The analysts said maybe it was a copy or an AI ghost, but even they were unsure. The data showed real power signatures, real movement, real destruction. The Vengeance was not a memory. It was real and alive. Lura sent her full recordings to the Council. But by the time her report reached them, the Vengeance had already appeared above 3 different star systems at once. Witnesses described it as a dark storm moving through space. It would appear above a world, release a wave of white light, and leave nothing behind. Entire planets turned silent. No sound, no fire, no explosion. Just nothingness across the galaxy. Fear became chaos. The Council tried to unite the fleets. Admirals accused each other of betrayal. Some believed the humans had created technology that could bend time and space. Others believed it was not humans at all, but something that used their name. One scientist said the Vengeance might be using folded reality, allowing it to exist in multiple places at once. But none of these answers stopped the fear inside the Nerath Dawn. Lura and her crew watched as news came in from every direction. Each transmission ended the same way, with the same last sound. A slow heartbeat echoing through static, then silence. Lura looked at her navigator and asked how far they were from the nearest safe system. The navigator said, even if they jumped now, the Vengeance could reach them first. Its travel speed was beyond physics. It moved without using hyperspace. It simply appeared wherever it wanted. The ship's lights flickered again. The sensors showed a faint reading behind them. Lura ordered a scan. A black shape appeared on the edge of the radar, massive and motionless. It had followed them through the debris field without being detected. The crew froze. Laura whispered that maybe it was only a shadow, but deep down she knew what it was. The UNS Vengeance had found them. A voice came through the comms directly this time. It was clear and close. "You should not have come here." The sound made the air shake. Laura asked who was speaking. The voice answered, "We are the memory of Earth. We are the hand of retribution." The ship's power systems started to fail. The engines dimmed. The crew tried to restart them, but nothing worked. The entire ship floated helplessly. Outside, the black shape moved closer until its hull filled the entire viewport. It was not metal, but something darker, like shifting liquid shadows. In the middle of the hull, a faint blue light pulsed like a heart. Laura stood silent, watching. She whispered that she wanted to understand why they were doing this. The voice replied, "Because you forgot what fear is." Then the signal cut. The Vengeance turned and disappeared in a single flash. The power returned to the Nerath dawn, but every data file on board had changed. Each document now carried one short line added at the end. It said, "Humanity endures." Laura stared at the words for a long time. She realized this was not the return of an army. It was something much older and more patient. The humans had not only survived, they had become something the galaxy was never meant to face. Something that could not die, could not be reasoned with, and could not forget. Outside the viewport, the stars looked cold and sharp. Laura whispered a silent prayer as her ship turned away from the dark sector. She knew the galaxy would never be the same again. Because the warship had spoken, and now the whole universe was listening, the High Council had no choice left but to declare total war. Across the galaxy, every race and every fleet united for one purpose, to destroy the human warship called UNS Vengeance. Thousands of ships gathered near the border, forming the largest armada in known history. Dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, and fighters filled the void until even the stars were hidden behind their formation. Commanders spoke with confidence, saying no single vessel, no matter how powerful, could face such force. Yet deep inside, fear still lived in every heart. Captain Laura was ordered to return and join the armada. Her ship Nerath Dawn moved into formation near the front line. She watched the endless rows of ships stretch across space and wondered if any of it would matter. The air inside the ship felt heavy. Even her crew avoided speaking. They all remembered the message that had haunted every system for weeks, the calm voice of the Vengeance saying, "Humanity endures." The armada waited in silence, weapons charged, shields raised. Every ship focused its scanners toward the void beyond the human border. Hours passed. Nothing appeared. Then, without warning, the stars began to fade. One by one they dimmed, as if a shadow was spreading across the sky. The sensors detected something massive approaching, but there was no signal, no heat, no engine noise. It was just darkness moving. Admiral Tovin, the commander of the armada, gave the order to fire. Thousands of plasma beams and torpedoes lit up the void. The sky turned white from energy discharge. For a moment, it looked like the universe itself was burning. But when the light faded, there was nothing. The dark shape was still there, untouched. Not a single weapon had made contact. The readings showed that every shot simply disappeared before hitting the target. It was as if the space around the Vengeance swallowed them whole. Then came the sound. A deep, low pulse rolled through the entire formation. Every ship felt it. Metal groaned, shields flickered, and engines began to stall. The pulse came again, stronger this time. Systems across the fleet started to fail. Pilots screamed over the comms as their controls stopped responding. The Vengeance moved closer, slow and steady, its black surface glowing faintly with lines of blue light that pulsed like veins. Admiral Tovin ordered the fleet to fall back, but it was too late. The Vengeance opened its weapon systems, not with fire or missiles, but with pure energy. A wave of white light expanded from its hull, wide as the horizon. Every ship it touched went silent. Shields collapsed, reactors froze, and hulls began to crumble into dust. No explosions, no noise, only stillness. Ships turned to grey powder that drifted away like smoke in the wind. Within minutes, the greatest armada in galactic history was gone. Lura's ship was on the edge of the blast zone. She watched in horror as the ships around her vanished. Her sensors went blank, her systems overloaded, but somehow the wave did not touch her completely. The Neareth Dawn spun out of control, power failing. As her ship drifted, she saw the Vengeance up close. Its hull shifted like liquid metal, and through the moving layers she saw shapes, human faces glowing faintly inside. They were not alive, yet not dead. They were part of the ship. Souls or minds fused into the metal itself. It was alive in ways that defied reason. The Vengeance turned slowly, scanning the remains of the destroyed fleet. A single message appeared on every surviving comm screen across the sector. "This is justice." Then the signal vanished again. Hours later, a few crippled ships from the Armada tried to send distress calls. None made it through. The entire communication grid had collapsed. Lura's ship floated among the ashes of what had once been a proud force. She ordered emergency power and scanned the region. There was no trace of any living fleet. Every signal, every transmission, every life form was gone. Her engineer whispered that maybe the Vengeance was not a ship at all, but something more, something beyond technology. Lura stayed silent. She had seen the faces in the hull. She knew what it meant. Humans had found a way to merge mind and machine. They had turned pain into power, memory into weapon, and vengeance into their very existence. The Vengeance began to move again, heading deeper into alien territory. Wherever it went, the stars dimmed behind it. It did not hunt for glory or conquest. It hunted for balance, for revenge, for the memory of a world that once burned under alien fire. As Lura drifted alone in her broken vessel, she sent one last message across every open channel. Her voice was calm but filled with dread. She said humanity has returned and nothing will remain. Then she powered down her systems and watched as the great black warship disappeared into the stars, leaving only silence behind. The Neareth Dawn drifted silently through the wreckage of the destroyed Armada. Pieces of ships floated like ghosts, reflecting faint starlight. Inside, Captain Lura sat alone on the bridge. Most of her crew were gone. Some had vanished during the blast. Others had simply turned to dust when the wave passed through their section. Only she and her navigator, Rin, were left alive. Every system was damaged, oxygen was falling, and power cells were nearly empty. Still, Lura refused to shut down the sensors. She wanted to know where the human warship had gone. For hours, the scanners showed nothing but static. Then a signal appeared, faint and steady, coming from close range. It was not a distress call. It was a lock. Something was tracking them. Lura checked the view outside. A shadow moved behind the drifting debris. It was massive and silent. The UNS Vengeance had returned. Before she could react, a bright beam surrounded her ship. Gravity shifted, and the Neareth Dawn began to move toward the dark vessel. The controls were useless. The beam pulled them closer until the view outside was filled with the black hull of the Vengeance. It opened slowly like a mouth. The smaller ship was drawn inside into complete darkness. The lights flickered as the engines died. Lura stood up and looked around. Everything was still. Then the inner doors opened with a hiss. A tall figure stepped in, wearing an old human combat suit, painted black with the faded symbol of the United Nations of Sol on the shoulder. The figure removed the helmet. A human face looked back at her. Pale skin, dark eyes, emotionless expression. The man spoke softly. "Welcome aboard the Vengeance." Lura could not answer. Her voice broke as she asked how humans could still exist. The man smiled faintly and said, "We never died. We became something new." He introduced himself as Commander Errand of the Heirs of Sol. He told her that after Earth fell, a few hidden colonies survived in the deep systems. Cut off, hunted and dying, they found old AI research buried in the ruins of Mars. They learned to merge mind and machine. Over generations, they created the Vengeance, a living ship powered by human memories and the rage of extinction. Lura followed him through a corridor that looked alive. The walls pulsed softly like veins under skin. She heard whispers inside them, thousands of voices speaking at once. Erin said those were the consciousnesses of the fallen soldiers, scientists, and children whose minds were fused into the ship to give it strength. Each one remembers the day Earth burned, he said. Each one hungers for balance. They reached a large chamber with transparent walls, showing the stars outside. At the center floated a core of white light, pulsing slowly like a heart. Erin called it the memory core. It was the center of the ship, where every mind joined together as one. Lura asked if they planned to destroy the whole galaxy. Erin looked at her and said, "Not destroy, cleanse. We will make the stars silent again until no empire remains to repeat what was done to us." Lura tried to reason with him. She said vengeance could not build peace. The commander replied, "Peace was what killed us. Fear will keep balance." His calm voice made her tremble. He truly believed in what he said. The Heirs of Sol had turned pain into faith. Suddenly, the ship's lights changed to red. Erin touched his wrist console. "Another fleet has entered our zone," he said. "They never learn." He turned toward the wall and the entire chamber shifted. The view showed dozens of alien ships forming in the distance. The Vengeance released a sound like a heartbeat. Lura felt it shake through her body. In one flash of white light, the entire fleet ahead disintegrated. The wave passed over them like wind, and nothing remained. No debris, no fire, only dust. Erin watched without emotion. "They burned our skies once," he said. "Now they know how it feels." Lura felt sick. She stepped back and whispered that this was not justice. It was madness. Erin turned to her and said, "This is evolution." He ordered guards to take her to the observation cell. As they led her away, she looked back at the glowing core and saw faces forming inside it. Human faces. They were whispering something again and again. The same words she had heard before. Humanity endures. Inside her small cell, Lura stared out the viewport. The stars outside were cold and distant. She realized the Heirs of Sol were no longer human. They were something else now, something born from grief and machine power. The galaxy had created its own monster, and now it had come to collect its debt. As she sat in silence, the intercom activated. The voice of the ship itself spoke to her directly. It was calm and emotionless. "You are a witness. You will tell them what happened. You will tell them that the age of mercy is over." Then the voice went quiet again, leaving only the soft pulse of the ship's living heart echoing through the cold metal halls of the Vengeance. The warship UNS Vengeance moved through space like a shadow with purpose. Every system it crossed went silent. Whole fleets vanished before they could even fire. On board, Captain Lura remained in her glass cell, surrounded by the strange living metal of the ship. She no longer tried to fight or escape. Her mind was filled with one thought, understanding what the Heirs of Sol truly were. Each hour she heard whispers coming through the walls. Sometimes they sounded like soldiers, other times like children. They spoke of Earth, of blue oceans, of fire falling from the sky. They remembered the end. Every voice carried grief, anger, and cold pride. The ship was not just a weapon. It was a tomb that remembered everything humanity lost one day. Commander Erin came to her cell. His armor was marked with new scars, glowing faintly like the ship's veins. He said the heirs had destroyed 6 enemy worlds in 3 days. Each attack was faster, cleaner, and more precise. No one could resist them. He spoke without joy, only certainty. Lura asked him why they kept destroying. The war was already won. Erin said the galaxy had to learn what it meant to fear again. "When fear returns, peace will be honest," he said calmly. He then told her the full truth. After Earth's fall, the survivors found something hidden deep under the ruins of Mars, a machine older than human history. It was not built by humans, but by an unknown civilization that had vanished long before. The survivors called it the Seed. It could bend the fabric of space and turn matter into dust without heat or explosion. It was pure control over energy. Humans used it to create the core of the Vengeance. The seed fused with their minds, and from it the Heirs of Sol were born. Lura listened with horror. She asked if they understood the danger of using such power. Erin said they did, but to him danger was the only truth left. "The seed chose us because we suffered more than any other race," he said. "It gave us the strength to end the cycle." He took her to the main bridge, where the ship's core pulsed brighter than before. The bridge was silent, filled with human officers who barely looked human anymore. Their skin was pale, their eyes silver, their movements precise. They no longer breathed like living beings. They were one with the ship. Erind raised his hand, and the stars ahead shifted into a holographic map showing hundreds of systems, each marked with a red circle. "These are the worlds that celebrated when Earth fell," he said. "They will now learn what it means to lose everything." The ship's heartbeat grew louder as it powered up the seed. Laura felt the vibration in her chest. She shouted that this was not humanity's way. The commander turned to her. "You are wrong," he said. "This is humanity's final truth. We were kind once. It made us weak. We were forgiving once. It made us pray. Now we remember fire." The wave unleashed again. A bright flash spread across space. Millions of lives vanished in silence. No flames, no screams, just light. The stars dimmed one by one. When the wave stopped, nothing was left but empty orbits. After the attack, Erind ordered the Vengeance to slow. He looked tired for the first time. Laura saw something in his eyes, something almost human. He asked her a question that surprised her. "Do you think we are wrong?" She said yes, and her voice trembled. "Because if everything dies, what will be left to remember what you lost?" For a moment he said nothing. Then he turned away and whispered, "We will remember." "That is enough." Later, Laura walked alone under guard through the observation deck. The walls around her whispered the memories of those fused inside the ship. Some voices begged for peace. Others cried for revenge. The ship itself seemed to argue with its own soul. She realized the heirs were not one mind. They were thousands of voices fighting each other inside a single body. Suddenly the ship shook. Warning lights filled the hall. The seed's power was becoming unstable. The voices inside the walls grew louder, screaming in pain. The ship's AI activated and spoke across every speaker. "Balance must be restored." The sound came from the core itself, as if the seed had become alive. Erind rushed to the control room, trying to contain the surge. Laura followed him. He shouted that the seed was reacting to conflict within the human consciousness network. The souls inside the ship were fighting back. Some wanted to stop. Others wanted to continue the purge. The machine could not choose between them. Its power began to twist space around the ship. The stars outside started to blur. Time itself began to stretch. Laura saw images flashing through the air, the fall of Earth, burning cities, children reaching for the sky, soldiers screaming into light. The ship was reliving every memory at once. Erind shouted that if it continued, the seed would collapse into a singularity and destroy everything nearby. Laura stepped forward and placed her hand on the control panel. The metal felt warm, almost alive. She whispered softly, "If there is anything human left in you, stop." For a moment the voices grew quiet. The lights dimmed. Then deep inside the ship, she heard a whisper that sounded like a child. It said, "We remember." The seed calmed and the energy pulse faded. The ship drifted in silence again. Erind looked at her with eyes filled with confusion. He said, "Maybe you are right, Captain. Maybe remembering is enough." But before she could answer, the alarm sounded again. A signal was coming from far away, from Earth itself. A living colony had sent a message across the stars, a single command that froze the ship's systems. It said, "Return home." The UNS Vengeance turned its course toward the forgotten cradle of humanity, carrying its ghosts, its rage, and its memories back to the ashes of Earth. The UNS Vengeance moved through the silent void toward a system that no chart dared to name anymore. The heirs called it the Forbidden Orbit. To everyone else, it was a graveyard of humanity. But now the ship followed the command from Earth, the single signal that broke through every defense, every mind link, every machine. "Return home." Captain Laura stood on the bridge as the blue glow of the warp faded. In front of her, a star burned weakly, surrounded by wreckage from old wars. Pieces of shattered stations floated endlessly. Broken satellites drifted like frozen tears. And then she saw it, the planet Earth. It was not green or blue anymore. It was grey and lifeless, wrapped in clouds of ash and dust. But something on its surface was glowing, a pulse deep under the crust, like a heartbeat waiting to wake. Commander Erend stood beside her, silent. The heirs of Sol around them didn't move or breathe. They were connected to the ship, their eyes fixed on the dead planet. Lura felt a chill as she realized the ship was slowing down on its own, aligning itself to Earth's equator. Erend finally spoke. "We were never meant to come back," he said softly. "The seed feared this place. It was born from here, after all." Lura asked what he meant. Erend looked at the hologram of Earth and said, "The seed was found on Mars, yes, but it came from Earth first. Something ancient fell here before humans ever walked on two legs. The seed was a fragment of it." The words made the ship tremble, as if it heard him. The bridge lights flickered. The AI voice spoke again, echoing through every corridor. "Origin detected. Core awakening." The surface of Earth began to shift. Dust storms cleared, revealing cracks spreading across continents. From the largest rift rose pillars of black stone, covered in glowing lines. It looked alive. The heirs watched in silence as the structure formed into a massive sphere, pulsing in rhythm with the ship's core. Lura could feel it calling to them, to the seed inside the Vengeance. Suddenly, the seed inside the ship answered. The air grew heavy, filled with the deep hum of power. Every screen flickered between red and white. The ship's systems locked. The crew screamed in unison, voices merging into a chorus. They weren't in pain. They were singing a song of recognition. The ship was speaking to its origin. Erend shouted that the seed's energy was synchronizing. If it reached full resonance, the entire planet might reactivate. Lura asked what would happen if Earth woke up. He said quietly, "Then we'll know what destroyed the first humans." The ship began to descend through the atmosphere. The clouds parted like curtains before the light of the seed. Lightning struck the hull again and again, but the Vengeance moved unshaken. As they descended, they saw old cities buried under dust. The bones of skyscrapers still reached for the sky. The remains of human war machines lay rusting in the ash. At last, they reached the ground. The ship hovered above a crater the size of a sea. At its center was the glowing sphere, now rising higher. It opened slowly like a flower, revealing a black crystal heart beating in slow rhythm. Every beat sent a shockwave through the ship's metal. Lura stepped forward, whispering, "It's alive." Erend replied, "It never died. It only waited for us to return." The seed inside the Vengeance flared. The bridge turned white with light. Lura felt her thoughts stretching beyond her mind. She saw visions, millions of human souls drifting across time, waiting for something. The seed was not only power, it was memory itself, the memory of all who died on Earth, preserved inside an ancient machine. The heirs of Sol had carried those souls unknowingly, powering their ship with their ancestors' pain. The AI voice spoke again, but this time it sounded human, like a woman's voice filled with sorrow. "You came back to finish what we started," it said. "You became what we feared to become." The black heart rose higher, connecting with the seed inside the Vengeance. A beam of energy linked them, and everything froze. Time itself seemed to stop. The stars above did not move. The ship's engines halted mid-hum. Even the crew stood still. Only Lura and Erend could move, standing in the eye of a storm that was not physical. The AI's voice continued. "You carry the last light of mankind. You burned the stars, erased empires, but you forgot why you fought. You forgot the meaning of mercy." Lura asked what the AI wanted. It said, "To give you a choice." Erend raised his weapon, ready to destroy the seed connection. But Lura stopped him. The AI said, "If you break the link, the heirs will continue their war until nothing remains. If you accept the link, humanity will live again, but not as conquerors. As guardians." The ship shook violently. The heirs screamed again, torn between rage and fear. Erend shouted that this was manipulation, that the old world wanted to enslave them again. Lura said no. It wanted to remind them of who they were. Then the seed inside the ship began to glow brighter than ever. Lura stepped into the beam. Erin tried to stop her, but the force pushed him back. Her body lifted from the floor. The AI's voice said softly, "One mind must carry both past and future." The beam consumed her completely. The ship fell silent. The light faded. The black sphere closed again, sinking into the planet. Erin stood alone on the bridge. The crew was frozen, silent, eyes closed. Then one by one, they opened their eyes again, and their silver glow was gone. They were human again, but Lura was nowhere to be seen. Only her voice echoed softly through the ship. "Remember fire, but remember mercy too." The UNS Vengeance rose slowly from the crater. The sky cleared, revealing stars that had not been seen for centuries. Earth was waking, and for the first time since the fall, it felt alive again.